Welcome everyone to this week's edition of Where is Your Stop? It is July 16th, 2014, and this week we're going to be talking about essentially treasuries. We had obviously seen in that news announcement in the honking perspective that for some people it was a little bit worry about the quote-unquote spike that we've seen in the treasuries, and so really just wanted to take a second to be able to put that into perspective. So first things first, we're going to be using the TLT. It's just kind of a broad measure of that 30-year bond. Obviously, we know that it represents the 20, but this is the most kind of liquid. We'll take a look here at that 30 in a second. So essentially, the last time that we had a long signal was all the way back on basically the end of January, right in here. And you can see that, from a very practical perspective, we've definitely stayed outside the noise. We started stepping up as it was moving up in a very uniform manner, right in here for the few months. And then all of a sudden, that really broke down right in there. And and so you can see that we haven't, as TLT has gone sideways, we have not moved our stop up at all. Volatility, volume, and price really has not dictated that we're seeing an increase in price, warning any type of movement up in our stop. Now, with that being said, let's just take a look at the Treasury yields here just for a quick second. And let's just take a long-term perspective look into that. So, obviously from the short term, we've seen, yes, gyration, essentially down. In terms of the perspective, is this a big deal? No, not at all. In fact, going along this line of essentially momentum in here, really not that big of a deal. If anything, it's just gone sideways. So we can tell that from a very practical perspective of price, that really yields have not actually really done a lot. That's going to really spook anybody. Now, let's go back here to TLT just to take a look, because I do like putting things into perspective. All the way back here, this move right in here, that was 2011, whenever we had that big drop in the equity market. Due to those scares that were numerous at the time of Europe to balancing budgets. But anyway, the point being is that we never in the market completely came down off of this escalation right in here. You can tell that the market is still right at these elevated levels in terms of the bond market. So essentially what a lot of people that you hear talk about on the floor, at least with the guys that I talk with, is how the bond market has always not been registering the same for a long time now as the equity market in terms of their fear gauge of what's going on out there. And so that is one thing to keep an eye on, is the fact that we have had a long signal in the TLT. We are outside of it, but the biggest thing is that really we've stayed in terms of price levels from a macro perspective across the last few years. We've still stayed at elevated levels that were similar to equity movements that we haven't seen yet in our market. Who knows what's going to happen next, but the biggest thing that we do know is that we can always be utilizing our stops in the proper manner that gives us an expectancy and a positive edge. So, to helping you beat random and staying outside the noise, we will see you next week. And as always, hit us out with any questions or comments or stuff that you want us to look at.